Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews. Hopefully, you're all having a wonderful morning, day, afternoon, whatever it is. I hope you're having a good one. Anyway, we're back with episode 78. I believe it is the third New Year's mystery review where I review a movie that I haven't seen. These are all movies that I have either seen clips from or haven't seen at all, but never seen in their entirety. And this one is no different. The hints that I gave were it's a Jason Statham film, and I gave A Dark Spirit as a hint and Scorched Earth as a hint. So, before we get too far into it, make sure that you smash the like button. Support the channel however you can, either by subscribing, commenting, liking. All of these things help get the channel noticed. They help build the algorithm's recognition. So, yeah, if you can help me out in any way that you can, that's awesome. And I'm still trying to get to 4,000 hours so I can be eligible for monetization. So if you can help out by watching any of the playlists, this playlist has the most videos thus far. So this would be the one to watch that would be the most helpful. Anyway, so let's get on with the mystery review. This one, like I said, it was a Jason Statham film that I seen. And it was a 2021 film. 2021 was not a good year for movies. A lot of films were held back because of the pandemic. They had to be put on streaming services where they didn't receive a lot of money. And this movie I had wanted to see, but I hadn't gotten the ability to see for a while. And it is known as Wrath of Man. Now, this movie is an MGM movie, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, and also partnered with Miramax. So yeah, this movie with Jason Statham, holy crap, this is a great movie. It's directed by Guy Ritchie, who is actually a very talented director. He has a very unique style of his movies. This movie is very much reminiscent to the style he used in the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. He even has an actor from those movies playing in this one. The guy that played Inspector Lestrade plays in this, and he plays a very meek character in this one. This movie, I really do, like I said, I like the style of this movie, where you see the situation that sparks off the whole movie. This situation is what you think is innocuous at first, but then takes a turn for the worst. And you get a little bit of the context here and there. I like what he does with cutting out the audio in a couple areas so that you don't get too much context. It's an interesting choice. It's actually a gamble, but because this movie hinges on this one scene, you will get the full context later on in two other moments in the film. 3, including the climactic ending. However, you get that, and then you get to a next scene that's fairly innocuous. And then you learn, or as the film progresses, you learn that all of these things are connected. And Guy Ritchie does a great job in telling a story in that way, putting the pieces all out of context, all out of sequence, making them work. I watched a movie that Quentin Tarantino did earlier this month, which was Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction did the same kind of thing, but it didn't work, in my opinion. However, doing it in this context actually works. Guy Ritchie did a better job doing an out-of-sequence movie than Quentin Tarantino. And before I go any further, let's say hello to the people who are in the chat right now. Right now, it's only Vanja. Good to see you. So, yes, this movie stars Jason Statham, Jeffrey Donovan, Josh Hartnett. I almost didn't recognize him. Laz Alonso and Scott Eastwood, as well as many others. And this was the first viewing I did for Wrath of Man. I watched it 2 times. One time to actually get the talking points established, and the second time just before the stream in order to get it fresh in my mind. Now, the score really sets the tone. There's good aerial shots, and then we get the armored car. Now, the cinematography for this film is extremely nice because it's one of those kind of like Call of Duty moving through the action kind of thing, where the camera is inside the armored truck at an angle, so you can see you're in the back seat and you're seeing what's going on in the truck, but also outside. And that is a pretty interesting way of shooting, but it's also a really good way of shooting because the way that they did it fits the situation of the shot. So when you see the angles, how you see the truck pull up in front of this armored truck, you see how they're just talking. The guys are just talking about their day and other things. And then it turns into the robbery. And they the guys who are robbing the truck toss a flashbang grenade in. And I'm like, okay, these guys are military because you can't get your hand on that kind of equipment unless you're in the military, really. So what I really liked about that scene was the flashbang effect. You don't really see a lot of digital effects in this except for a couple of things here and there. But for the most part, this movie with practical effects was so well done. Sorry, something caught my attention outside. But yeah, the flashbang effect where they go flashing and the camera looks distorted and whatnot. That was a beautiful representation. It's almost like the video games of Call of Duty where you see overlap and whatnot. It's a very disorienting kind of feeling, you know? I mean, if I was watching this movie in like VR goggles over my eyes, I would probably be as disoriented as those people too. Flashbangs, from what I hear, I can honestly say I've never been exposed to a flashbang before, but from what I hear, they're not something that you want to voluntarily experience. Now, we learned that this film, when I was first watching it, they cut out some of the audio and the dialogue of the robbery scene, where he kills the 2 riders, or one of the shooters of this robbery kills the 2 drivers of this armored truck. And then it's like he killed or number 2 killed it, and they stopped there. And then he killed a fucking F word. And I'm like, okay, there are the only way, it's like, what did he killed a effing what? Well, the only way they would be freaking out is either 2 things, a cop or a kid. I went kid, and I was later rewarded because, well, it turns out that a kid was killed in that sequence in the movie. Now, the title sequence is very reminiscent of Guy Ritchie's style, with the animated titles and the animations telling a story. The story in this one is more of a biblical and mythological nature, as well as a yearning for justice, it seems. And then we get this nice little chapter thing here that says a dark spirit. And it then just cuts to Jason Statham is getting a job at an armored car business. So we see that he has to do training for the job, fitness, weights, shooting test because he will be armed. And his shooting is a little bit off at first. He basically shows very mediocre shooting. And they say that you have to have a 70% or above to pass for this job. And then he botches the truck driving a little bit. Well, when I'm watching this, it's like, I get the feeling he's doing this on purpose. You know? I just get that feeling. Because I've never seen the movie. Like I said, this is a movie that I hadn't seen before. And this is a movie that I haven't even seen much of the trailers for, to be completely honest. Well, turns out my hunch was correct again. Now, predictability goes a long way when it comes to objective value. If you can predict what or stuff and whatnot, that takes away from objective standard. So, when I give the scores at the end of the stream, so make sure that you pay attention for the end of the stream, you'll understand why this film objectively is not where most people would think about it or think. So he passes with the bare minimum, 70%, and then we get introed into the locker room where all the other riders and drivers for the armored car business is, Fortico. And he gets his first assignment. And he talks shit to a couple of other guys, and they don't like him, they don't trust him, and whatnot. And one of them, we aren't the predators, we're the prey. And they're trying to scare him on his first day. So they're delivering a run of $2 million. And I like the twisted dialogue that all the characters in this business have. They're always busting each other's chops. They're always insulting each other. It's good camaraderie. And that's something that is honestly lacking in a lot of movies nowadays. You don't see that kind of busting chops where it's very loose with the words, it's very 90s and anti-politically correct. And I really do like that kind of dialogue because it shows that these people are not afraid to frickin' talk shit, you know? And we need more movies like that, in my opinion. So, yeah, goes on. One guy thinks they start calling him H, which is either like Jesus H or something else, you know? And the atmosphere of the film really does accept how these things are doing. Now, one of the guys thinks there's more to H than meets the eye. He's basically telling Bullet, who's one of the main characters, he's like, this guy the way that he's moving, the way he talks, the way he's handling himself, this guy reeks as something like military or something. Or there's just something about him that's off, you know? And the first day gets over without a hitch. Well, you also see that when he's checking out and they all want to go to the pool hall, he's like, all right, let me go do something real quick, and then I'll join you guys at the pool hall. Well, he walks in there after everybody's checked out. He goes up to the name cards with all their photos, and he's just looking at them. Okay. So that's interesting. You wonder what he's doing, you know? He's looking at them, so he's basically taking in names and whatnot. But then you realize later, scene where it shows lower than this, where it shows more up, you see he has a phone and he's photographing these names. That's revealed later in the film. So we then see how he's at the pool hall with the other guys, and the guy whose job he got, and this guy is now basically the gate jockey who lets people in and out. He starts getting in the guys, or getting in Jason's face, or H's face, and he's like, "Here, buy a drink, but drink it over there." Basically gets the trouble averted, because this guy does want to start shit. And the other guys are busting his chops, hoping he will start shit so that they can see what the new guy's made of, to see if he will actually do something about it. Well, he does the smart thing. He puts the money in the guy's pocket and says, "Go drink it over there," Now, another thing happened in that scene that isn't revealed until later on in the film. Guy Ritchie does a wonderful job at doing this. So we then go to day 2. Well, this time something does go wrong. A robbery. Hartnett's character is they call him Sweaty Dave. And they were teasing him about yesterday's, like, did you make poo-poo in your pants and whatnot? They were teasing Statham and whatnot. Well, now it's Josh Hartnett's character. He is so shaky. It's like, and H is very calm. And he's like, "Sweaty Dave, just take care, or calm down, man." And he's freaking loose on the job. He's like, or yada, yada. And the way he handles the gun is so professionally proficient, man. He starts listening to the guys, and he's tossing the money in the flatbed, going along with the robbery, but then he tosses one of the bags off to the side on purpose, but he makes it look like an accident. And while everybody's freaking out, he pulls his son, and he's like, "All right, sorry, man." And as he throws, he uses his gun to shoot the guy in the head. He then pops another guy square in the head. He then gets out, and while Hartnett's like, "Are you out of your mind? You're a freaking lunatic. Just give him the money," and whatnot. And he pops the other guy that's holding Bullet hostage, because Bullet got checked in, or got caught by taken hostage and whatnot. And then he starts popping the other guys while one guy starts running off. He's basically Terminator mode, So he then chases down the last guy, pops him in the leg once. Now the guy's limping, so he decides, he's like, "Okay, I had enough." Pops him in the leg a second time. And he's like, "Who do you work for?" And he's like, or the guy tells him, suck him off or suck his dick. And he's like, "What'd you say?" "I said, suck your own dick." Pow, pops him. And he's like, "Hey, Dave, did you make poo-poo?" Freaking teasing him. And he's like, "You all right, Bullet?" And yada, yada. Well, we then get cut to the cold and calculated attitude. We then get cut to an investigation where everybody's talking with the bosses of the incident that went down. And he's pulled in. And they're like, "It's kind of odd you had some unambiguously accurate shooting, considering your test scores for shooting was complete or very unremarkable. What's up with that?" Well, these guys are basically feds talking to him. He's like, "Well, it's either killed or be killed. It can really focus the mind, it seems." And so they get out and they dial up an agent, and the boss of this guy, or the supervisor, is like really sensitive about it. So these guys show him the footage of the incident we see in the beginning of the movie. His reaction says it all. This deeply troubles him, but they're like, "Do we need to stop this? Are you able to watch it?" Because they want to know if he recognizes anything from the previous robbery, And he's like, "No, I'm fine." But you can tell he's not fine. And he sees the footage and almost as if he's recognizing certain things, which he is, because apparently he was there in that scene. So it's like, okay, slightly more context is there. He is in that scene somewhere that they didn't show you in the beginning of the movie. Well, the investigators know who H really is afterward. They send him out, and they talk to this Fed. And the Fed's like, just let the painter paint. The Bureau's been trying to hunt this guy down for 25 years. Just let him do what he has to do. We're giving him free reign right now, essentially. So it's like, okay, they know who Jason Statham is. Apparently they've been looking for him for 25 years. It's like, what the hell? Who is this guy? It's a good way of making the thing. So the next day, H is getting a lot of praise for his heroism. And then 3 months later, they cut to another run that they're doing, and it's another robbery, this time more sophisticated with smoke and paintballs cover in spray paint. And so they took one look at him and they ran. And they're like, get down on the ground, and he's covering his mouth with things so he doesn't get all the smoke in his senses and whatnot. And he just lowers it a little bit, and then it cuts to the supervisor, who's undoubtedly stressed again. And he's like, so they just ran away after taking one look at you? He's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And you then, or as the scene progresses, you learn that one of the guys from the crew recognized him. And the boss of the guy who owns Fortico absolutely loves him. He's like, stop being so cynical. Don't bust it or don't demote him. Promote him, He's like, I think he may be a psychopath. So then you see a small cut back to the people who were running away. And one guy pulls off his mask and it's like, what the hell was going on? You had the doors open. What's going on? And they cut from there. They stopped the dialogue immediately there. And I'm like, it was that could be, it was the guy, or it was the hero, it was what? But the way that these guys looked, they were wise guys kind of things, And I'm like, maybe a boss or something, I don't know. And it turns out I'm freaking right again. The supervisor, not so much. The female in the AC crew, her name's Dana. Also now Bullet is suspicious of this guy too, but Dana takes H home, has a little hanky-panky with him, and Bullet is talking with Sweaty Dave, and he's like, he's a dark spirit. The way that they took one look at him and they just ran, man. He's not a cop. He doesn't smell like a cop, but he's something. And so then we see H wakes up after, tells Danny, he's like, meet me in the other room, please. And then he unfolds a lot of cash. He's like, you're going to tell me where you got this from. And she's like, you're interrogating me in my apartment? And so he pulls a silencer and shoots the cat that she's hitting, and she's like, whoa, it's my savings, it's my retirement fund. And then he shoots again to let her know he's not kidding around. You're going to answer the questions, you're going to answer them in a way, and if I don't like them, you're going to die. Essentially, he's letting her know that this is not a situation where you want to fuck around with, because he'll go find out before you fuck around too much. So she explains that they were doing a job. She stole $125,000 because it was left in the till of a closing company. And so she took the $125,000 she stole for her retirement. And he's like, was this an inside job? Is there anybody on the inside that helped you and whatnot? She's like, what are you talking? And he's like, before you answer, I want you to know just how serious I am. If you don't answer in a way that I don't like, basically saying, honestly, you're going to learn that I am not a person to screw with. And so he says, on the desk there is a picture of your parents taken last week. I want you to know that I am a man of many resources. and I hold a grudge. And so she comes clean with him and whatnot. It was simply just she took 125 grand. That's all she knew. And he's like, now I want you to understand right now. If I learn you're not being honest with me, I will come back and I will make your life, and I will tear your life apart, essentially. So this is screaming this screams that Jason Statham has a vendetta. Also, he doesn't know who the players are, and he is wanting a pound of flesh. But the way that he's going about it also reeks that he might actually be part of the mafia or something, or organized crime at the least. Well, we then get to the next chapter, which is called Scorched Earth, where we see the situation in more context. The beginning scene is shown again, where it is like 5 months earlier. Well, now we see that he's talking to his son, Dougie, who's over for holiday, and the robbers from the job that ran off is talking to H on the phone, calling him boss, and that one of the guys got hit by a drunk driver, so they need him as a spotter, and it's like, get somebody else to do it, man. I'm out with my kid right now. And well, they're like, boss, there is nobody else. We kind of need your help here, you know? Well, it's a nice, clever twist with this kind of thing. And makes you think that H is behind the robbery of Fortico. And you think that his guy screwed up with his kid and one of the people wasted his kid. Well, you see that this scene doesn't go, or sees that his son is waiting in the car as he's getting a burrito and also helping out the crew. However, as he's returning, it doesn't look like his crew is handling the job. Well, he sees his son wasted by a guy. He also sees the guy's face. It's the actor Scott Eastwood. And then he's running, and then he gets shot. And you think he's dead. Now he's also looking up at the guy who shot him. And he ends up waking up 3 weeks later in the hospital. Now, this scene is very well shot. As he learns that his son is killed, they cut to some woman who is clearly distraught. I'm guessing it's the mother of Dougie. And fierce, apathetic Black Queen. Good to see you. How you doing? So, Guy Ritchie also has another nice shot where it shows Jason Statham walking out of hospital, but the camera is kind of moving with him sideways as he's walking. So it's one of those rigs that is put around your waist and the camera is in your face to show, or to kind of show how uneven your mind is. It's kind of a reflective way of filming that, you know, how he's moving, how chaotic it is right now. And then his ex-wife, who's the mother of Dougie, is blaming him for his son's death. And it also then cuts to him, going back to the talking points. H was shot 3 weeks later, wakes up in the hospital. And then his mother is confronting him, saying it, or he tells him it wasn't because of the job. And she blames him for the son's death, and she walks out, and the feds have a list. So he meets up with the federal agent that was on the phone with the other two guys. And he's going to help H. He says, you need any of them alive? Let's just say that, or the Bureau and me don't miss the people who have been taken out by you or your boys. So you're going to let me do this thing my way. This is a shit list. And he gives him the list, and he's like, this is a shit list. Anybody on that list, you could do your worst. But you have to understand, I can only look ignorant for so long. Now, then his boys are going in, and he's like, I want the shooter. Get me his name. Well, his boys go out, basically scorch earth, which is the chapter of the name of this scene, and they use a lot of resources searching for the person who pulled the trigger on his son. And so basically, it's like we scorched earth, man. We've done everything. I seem to remember you all saying that you were going to do anything. But what you're telling me is that you've done everything. And I'm going to tell you right now, you haven't. So they kidnap some ghetto guy. And you see that they pull this guy out of bed. They torture him and whatnot. And they're not getting anywhere with him. So then he comes in. You're going to give me a name, or I'm not going to take your life. I'm going to take hers. And he brings this other woman in. This guy is like, don't you fucking touch her. Bag her. He lets them know. I mean, Jason Statham's acting where he is basically playing a guy that has nothing to lose, willing to do everything for his vengeance, takes an innocent woman, puts a bag or a plastic bag over her head, and the guy's like, okay, fine. I'll give you a name. And he gives the name up, the Gashi brothers. And these guys do a lot of twisted stuff and occasionally hit off cash or rob cash trucks. And so but Jason Statham is also compassionate enough that he has the girl unbagged. And then he tells this guy, give him $200,000 and leave the keys in the car. And after torturing this guy, he basically lets him go with $200,000. Well, then they go in to a next scene where Mikey, the guy who recognized him at the scene where he pulls his face down or shows his face and the crew just runs, he's his left hand, or he's his second in command guy. And he's like, man, this one is totally fucked up. There's kids involved and whatnot. Now, you see that he goes in, he sees the whole scene. You see that there are underage girls off to one side. You see that there's this naked dude laying on the ground. You can't see his face, but he's huddled up like this to where he's clearly in pain. You see other guys tied up with their hands behind their back, and you're hearing screaming, a woman screaming off the one side, and some violent shit going on in there. And he's like, or he goes up to one of the other guys and he's like, so how much is in the pot? 2.5. But I don't think they did it. I mean, he's like, you get to tell the boss that. So then the guy he's like, they're sick fucks. They even talked about hitting the cash trucks, but I don't think these are the guys that that killed your son. And so he's like, what do you want me to do, boss? I don't want you to do anything. He takes that guy's gun, comes out, wastes the two guys that were tied up, wastes a third guy that was tied up as well, and then comes out. He's like, how old are those girls? And one of his guys are like, not old enough. He sees the naked guy, plants a few in him, give the money to the girls and let him go. And then he walks out. Well, Mike, his second, comes out and he's like, boss, if I may speak candidly, we can't keep doing this. We can't, or you see as they are scorching earth that the cops are investigating, and it's the two cops that were at the office or at Fortico's office or asking him, questioning him about the incident, and they can only look away for so long. And he's like, we have to change our approach here, because if we keep doing it the way that we're doing it, some guy's going to come up at us with everything they got, and we ain't going to be able to expect that. And I know that you're not in your right mind right now, But we do have, and I understandably, and I understand that too, but we have to change up our approach. Well, he's like, you're right, Mikey. You take care of yourself. I'm going to London for a few weeks. I need to do some thinking. He didn't go to London. In fact, he gets this woman to give him a brand new freaking identity. And it's like, oh my God. It shows him getting the identity for Patrick Hill. He's like, Patrick, I'm a Brit, not a Mick. And she's like, well, your mother's Irish. And you see that this is a scene where it goes back to a couple of other previous scenes where he's taking the pictures of all of the people and he's sending a message to this woman who gave him the new identity. I want you to run background on all of these folks. And Dana happens to be one of the weak links. Well, he goes after, or shows that he also pulled the card from the guy who gave him shit at the bar while he was putting the cash in. He pulls the card out. This is another great way of storytelling that shows you added context. And you also see him reading the coroner report on his son. So this is pure Guy Ritchie in his way of storytelling. Now, we then get to the next chapter, Bad Animals, Bad. And this is where it can be a little bit confusing. How you doing, Orville Nation? Good to see you. And Buddy R, good to see you. And this is where it can get a bit confusing because now you're introducing a whole new set of players later on in the film. And it's like, okay, who are these guys, you know? Well, it turns out that these are the guys he's looking for. And it's like, okay, now things are getting interesting. So, these guys are military. They all ran in the same unit overseas. And they're all bored. So they decide to go doing some small time robberies. And one guy they're retired from the military. And one of these guys is like, I'm getting fucked over and whatnot and yada yada. And so they're like, okay, well, let's rob this guy. What do you know about the layout? And this guy gives up the layout so that they can rob him. Well, they end up with small change from this robbery. So it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Now they seem to, or at this point when I was first watching the film, because they mentioned that they have an inside man and they're going to start knocking off security trucks. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Bullet and Hartnett were talking to each other. And it's like, okay, I'm guessing Bullet is the inside man or Hartnett, but I'm guessing it's Bullet because Hartnett seems way too freaking loose, shaky, crazy and whatnot. It just doesn't seem like it's an act for him, you know? So we then now see the full context of the job with their point of view, these guys, the ones that did the job. We see that everything's going well, but then we see that one of them pulls Statham's kid out of the vehicle. And one of the guards goes after one of the people with the gun on him. Well, it turns out to be Scott Eastwood's character, Jan, who knocks the guy back and plugs the other guard, and then they're reporting it's like he shot a kid. How you doing, Junebug and Orville? And you see that Jason Statham's kid looks over at him, and he just pops him 4 shots. and they're silence shots, and then you see that Jason Statham is running at him, and he pops him full of multiple shots, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Or two shot a kid. He shot a fucking kid, man. You hear the full context in this area. You see the full freaking. You hear the full dialogue. You hear all the context. You now know this is the guy that he wants. This is the crew that is responsible for the death of his boy. It is pure Guy Ritchie at this point. Well, now we're getting to the climax of the film. 5 months later, after that incident, the military crew gets back together and they want to pull off a more difficult job. A job that is, it's either a success or game over. Well, we then cut to another track or to another chapter, liver, lungs, spleen, and heart. And I'm like, there's only one reason why they would probably even think about naming it this. I'm guessing this is where somebody's going to get shot. The different areas. Turns out that's true. I really do like Scott Eastwood. I think the biggest problem is Hollywood just wants to make him his dad, and he's his own purpose. Yeah. Clint Eastwood's a very good actor, but Scott Eastwood is also a good actor too, in his own right. And Scott Eastwood, except that in this, Scott Eastwood is mostly is a bad guy, where Clint Eastwood, I've not really seen him in, or I haven't seen all of his movies, but most of the movies that I've seen him in, he's not a bad guy, you know? So we then see how the next scene is Black Friday, where they're close up to $180 million. And they know that Jan, the guy that shot Statham's kid, is a loose cannon. And Bullet confesses, or we also learn while Bullet is out, while this job is going down now, he confesses to H. He's like, you can't be a hero on this run. I'm the inside guy for these guys. They're pulling off robberies. They're setting people up for life, or they're setting each other up for life so that they can get out and never have to work again, yada, yada. And so he lets H know, you do this right, you get to walk away and live through it. And I love this because this is now, or you think that H just heard Bullet confess that the kid was not ever part of the plan. He doesn't know that he's confessing to the kid's father. And you'd think that this would be a moment where frickin' H would get angry. Probably even pull his gun and just go like this. Fuck it. Nope. He plays it smart. He lets the whole damn thing play out as far as he can before he starts playing hero again. So we get to the climax of the movie where Fortico is taking in all the proceeds during Black Friday, which is 180 mil. He goes along with the plan, lets them start getting the money, and the robbery goes awry. The alarm is triggered while these guys are planning it. Now, the main guy that plays the leader of this crew is the same guy that is the main character in the show called Burn Notice. And he is a great actor in his own right. I can't remember his freaking name, though, to save my life. But the way that he's doing it, it's like these guys don't want collateral damage to the max, you know? They want to do it proficient. They want to get it done, you know? Oh, well. Excuse me one moment. There we go. Drop the cap to my water bottle. So, yeah. We get the action that's very chopped up with the cutting and whatnot. And I gotta say, these suits that these guys are wearing, the whole black with the helmet and yada yada, ballistic plating, not believing that for a moment. The ballistic plating, because I watch a YouTube channel called Demolition Ranch, man, and they show you that your best body armor that you can get is not going to stop like 50 cal rounds, or it's going to stop at a certain amount, and it also has its own freaking tolerance level to where it starts to degrade after a while. Well, these are apparently the ballistic plating on these guys that these guys are hauling on their bodies, on their shoulders, their chests, and whatnot, apparently is so tough that it almost looks like tank armor for the most part, because these bullets are not really doing much. And these guns that are shooting at these guys, pretty freaking solid, are about 5.56s, probably higher or slightly higher calibers than those. So, but the bullets are basically bouncing off these guys for the most part. And it's like, yeah, okay, moving on. Don't think too much about it, Dan. At this point, I'm thinking to myself. And so the action is very good. I do like how Jason takes out one guy and takes his clothing and his ballistic shielding, and it's knocked a bit by bit. Now, another thing is, during a revenge story, you think that in this scene that this is the climax of the movie. This is great freaking storytelling on Guy Ritchie's part. This is the scene where you expect Jason Statham to get all the bad guys, right? Nope. There's a part where Bullet gets the drop on him and shoots him a bit. Thankfully, because of the plating on this guy, he manages to survive for the most part. However, he is bruised up and probably took one in the side. So as the team is driving away with their haul, along with Bullet, and they get through the cops and whatnot, and they get there, or they get away before SWAT gets there. Well, during this whole sequence, you hear the robbers talking about the plan to go in. They're like, okay, but what about Jan? Jan is a loose cannon, but we don't expect everybody to make it through. Well, Jan also didn't expect everybody to make it through, especially the boss, because his boss got shot right here in the neck. Well, this happens to be a bleed out zone right here. Very meaty, a lot of nerves and shit. Pinch right here, you feel it. And he has to hold it like this. He pulls it away, he's bleeding, and he's getting a lot more pale too. Well, Jan tells Bullet, just get the money going and I'll be right with you. I'm going to get the boss. Well, the boss at this point has already pulled his gun, getting ready to shoot Bullet, or to shoot, what's his name? Is it Warhammer 40K armor plating they're wearing? I know, right? Royston Parker, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. And so, well, Jan gets in. He's like, oh, no. You don't get her. I know that was your plan all along. Well, thing is, it's just going to be me. And he pops him. And Bullet worked with the leader. Bullet was a friend of the leader, not Jan. And they go down some tunnels to escape. And they're getting to the final stretch. Well, Bullet's thinking about putting a bullet in Jan. And Jan already read through that intent. Boom, right under Bullet's chin. Bullet's now dead. Got what he deserved because he also killed a bunch of his fellow co-workers. He wasted Dana. I thought Dana was actually going to make it through, But no, he actually wasted her. And it's like, you son of a bitch, you deserve to die. Dana, or the actress that played Dana was actually pretty cute. Even with the short hair. But yeah. So you now think that Scott Eastwood's character Jan gets away scot-free, right? where or he's just driving a normal Prius, and he's now on the throughway. You hear the police choppers talking and how they're searching for any vehicle that's suspicious and whatnot. Well, turns out they cut to now Jan's place where he was living. Now, earlier in the scene, I didn't cover this, but the leader of that unit that they were, or that was knocking off the trucks, confronts Jan because he's like, I told you, no freaking huge spending, this or groceries and whatnot. And Jan doesn't care. He's a loose cannon. He didn't care. He bought a freaking penthouse apartment and all sorts of shit. He didn't care. And it's like, the reason why they wanted him to do small spending was because you didn't want to draw suspicion from people like feds, IRS, and whatnot, because these are people that are military. They're not going to have exorbitant spending costs. But if you are changing your financial spending habits, set off the red flags for the government and whatnot. Well, he didn't really care about that. But anyway, he's taking a shower. He gets out and he's in a robe and he's about to turn on a light. He's sipping bourbon. Well, Jason Statham's there. And he's like, what, you want the money? I'll give you the money. He's like, I don't want the money. I want you to read this. And he throws him a file, and it's a coroner's report. He's like, what the hell is this? And so he reads the trauma. Bullets pierces the liver, lungs, spleen, and heart. And cause of death, bled out and trauma. Or loss of blood and trauma. Then he flips the page over and he sees the picture of the kid. He doesn't even recognize the kid. He's like, what the fuck do you want? He doesn't care. And I absolutely love that, because this is the thing that allows the perfect justification. This is a guy who doesn't care about who he wasted, doesn't care about who he killed. Perfect reason to die in this sort of situation. Well, he's like, what do you want? I want your liver. Boom. Shoots him in the liver. Your lungs. Shoots one of his lungs. Spleen. Pops him in the spleen. Oh, and by the way, his name was Dougie. His son's name was Dougie. And he then pops him right in the heart as this guy is slowly dying. Killing him that. And then I love how they go from the shot like right about here, and then they pull out. You see all the money. He's looking at all the money. And then he gets out of the elevator without the money. Like he said, he didn't want the money. He just wanted that guy's life. And the federal agent comes out of the shadows. Are we good? You done? We're good. I'm done. And he's walking out. He is slightly injured. And the agent goes in to tidy up. Well, then Statham gets into a car with one of his boys and they drive off. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. Now, as I said earlier in the stream, this movie had predictable elements in it. I was able to see and deduce the kind of character that this guy was. He possibly a crime boss. I was able to deduce that. I was able to deduce what they were saying, even with cut dialogue. I was able to pretty much guess where a couple of these scenes were going. There's a predictability element that does harm objective quality in a film. Guy Ritchie did a solid film here. Not going to lie. But this film, due to its predictability, drops down 1.5 points. It's an 8.5 out of 10. Objectively, the predictability allowed it to be, and its writing allowed it to be the scenes, the way they were done, allowed it to be too predictable. Plus, you might throw off people with a few of the choices you made by introducing the last bit of guys into like the last third of the movie, you know? But then again, it is also a well-established way of telling a story. He's done it before. So yes, objectively, Wrath of Man is about an 8.5. About an A minus or B plus ish, B-ish area. If you were in school. But subjectively, Wrath of Man is a great freaking movie. I loved it. Jason Statham, I am a fan of Statham's movies. He does a great job with his acting. A lot of people says he does the same character over and over in all of his movies. They're just different names. Honestly, no, he doesn't. He has range. It's just his voice doesn't change, you know? As a voice, or if he was a voice actor, he doesn't have range as a voice actor. He would play the same, or his voice would be the same in everything. He does. However, as an actor, he does have the range. He could play the bad guy. He could play the good guy. He could play the anti-hero. He has the full freaking good, bad, and in the middle range. And that is awesome about Jason Statham's work. Guy Ritchie has a great way of telling a story. If you know who Guy Ritchie is as a director, you know that he has a different way of telling his stories. Like I said, I watched a movie earlier, or the first mystery review of the new year was Pulp Fiction. And they told an out-of-sequence story, much like this movie is. It's an out-of-sequence story. It's hopping along different methods in time. Well, Quentin Tarantino didn't do a good job at that kind of out-of-sequence storytelling, where in this movie, with Wrath of Man, Guy Ritchie, he did it far superior. Now, I'm not saying that Guy Ritchie is better than Quentin Tarantino. I am simply saying that in this case, in this one case, he did it better than Quentin Tarantino did in Pulp Fiction. Now, moviegoer, if you like Statham movies, if you like these kind of action-packed movies, you're going to like this movie. You're going to get a few laughs out of it. And I would put this movie about a 10 out of 10. I could watch it all the way through. If I had nothing else to do, this would be a perfect movie to turn on and watch. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yes, objective, 8.5 out of 10. Subjective, 10 out of 10. Moviegoer, 10 out of 10. So the hints for next week, folks, is going to be a Hitchcock movie, an Alfred Hitchcock movie that I have not seen. And I will give more hints as the week rolls on and into next week. Getting closer, or over the weekend coming up, I will give more hints. So also, I will be on Jade Shadow, Mara Jade's channel, discussing Terminator 2. So I'm going to be watching that today. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to be watching that after I get done taking care of a few things. And then I'm going to be I'm going to be doing some content. I know I've been lacking in videos and whatnot. I've been trying to find things that I've been reporting on a lot more, but eventually I'm going to have to start branching out with other things. I'm not really a gamer, so gaming news doesn't really affect me. And there's just things that I am fed up with identity politics. I won't even touch that crap anymore, but I will report on it. So yeah, I'm going to probably do a little bit more news or entertainment news, but I'm also going to stick to movie reviews if I am not getting enough content out. But yes, Wrath of Man is a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I watched it. And the next week's movie is going to be a Hitchcock film. A lot of people may have seen it. A lot of people may have not. But it's one that I myself haven't seen. So I just gave you a bigger hint to next week's review. Do not guess it in the comment section. I will neither confirm nor deny if you do. But make sure you tune in every Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Tonight, I will be on Society Reviews channel, where we're discussing pop culture and entertainment news. Believe me, I got some opinions that I'm going to be giving on that one. or because they're covering the Ezra Miller slap on the wrist thing there, So yeah, I will definitely be covering that or talking about that. I already gave a little bit of my opinion on it earlier in a video that I did a few days ago, but yeah, we're going to be talking about that more too. Anyway, thank you so much to Royston Parker for hopping it or for going in the chat, Junebug, Orville Nation, Buddy R, Fierce Apathetic Black Queen, and Vanja. Thank you all for tuning in and supporting the channel. Remember, if you want to support this channel, you can leave likes, sharing, and subbing. Subbing, I'm already at my goal of 1,000 subs and over. If I get more subs, awesome. If I what I really need now is the watch time. So definitely thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share my content out as much as you want or as much as you can. I am thankful for any and all support you guys give. I got my birthday and 1,200 sub review or 1,200 subs celebration coming on February 1st. That's my birthday. It's open invite for anybody who wants to come on and do review or say happy birthday, talk some shit, whatnot. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. Also, if you want to do a guest choice review where you get to come on the channel, you get to pick the movie, you get to pick the time, you get to pick the date. The only thing that I get to choose is the place, which is my channel. If you want to come on, we'll talk about a movie that we both enjoy. So make sure if you do want to do a guest choice review, it's a movie you enjoy, not a movie you want to tear apart, because I want to bring a little bit more positivity to the channel, because that's what I'm doing with these mystery reviews. These are all movies that I like. Now, even though I said I didn't, or Pulp Fiction was not a movie that I got really well, it is a movie that I did enjoy to a degree because I got a lot of laughs out of it. But yes, that's the risk with movies that you are seeing for the first time. So yes, February will be movies that have an element of romance in them, because February is Valentine month. So make sure that you're all paying attention to the themes for that one too. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You all have a wonderful day. And always remember, stay humble.